Afternoon all. It's gone 4:30, so I'll open our monthly council meeting. And firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today, the Wiradjuri and Ngunnawal people, and humbly pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. If we have to vacate the building in an emergency, we at the doors to the left and through the front door of the building and wait in the segregated area. Designated area will do. Third item is the fact that this meeting has been live streamed. So what that means is that any speakers in public forum or any councillors on any comments is picked up and streamed live, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. Our next item on the agenda is public forum, and we have a speaker to speak in public forum, and the speaker is Kate Miller, and it's in regard to item 2163 DA 2021 0034, the double carport at 147 Edward Street, Young, and she's speaking against the motion. So, Kate, have you the microphone there? You've got 5 minutes, and if you get to 4 minutes, I'll give you just a warning shot. And wonderful, thank you.
Thanks, Rana. My name is Kate, and I'm speaking on behalf of...
Is the microphone on?
And I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband. I'm addressing council today because we are seeking exemption for the control AAD 1.2 of the 2011 Development Control Plan, in that we are requesting to erect a carport less than 6 metres from our front boundary. We have seen several structures around town that are less than 6 metres from the boundary, and so we felt that we could justify our application. We have 3 vehicles with a single car garage and a single car driveway. We had discussion on site with someone from planning from council that covered the alternative siting locations, and we're not sure why the recommendation suggests that we haven't considered other sightings, because in that discussion we identified that a carport off the existing garage would not provide any benefit when the vehicles are parked one behind each other. Additionally, the slope of the land would mean that a carport would not look aesthetically pleasing, because the height variation from the roof of the house would be at odds with a carport off the garage. We also discussed the rear of the property, and he noted that this was not an option primarily for safety reasons. The discussion we had seems to contradict the recommendation to council to refuse our application. Previous owners of the property submitted a DA in 2000 to erect a covered pergola in the rear of the property, and this was never meant to house vehicles. The covered pergola is an outdoor living area, and we have a barbecue, outdoor setting and the dog kennel. Given we have a young child and the family dog, we deem that it's not safe to have vehicles at the rear of the property. Unfortunately, we live in the only section of Edward Street that does not have rear lane access. Therefore, our application to erect an open structure at the front of the property was based on our discussion that acknowledged the 11-metre verge, which is quite considerable, especially in comparison to the standard 4.5 metres. This means that we have more than double the usual nature strip. The recommendation to council suggests that the proposal does not minimise the visual dominance, and the proposal would reduce the quality of the streetscape. We have extensive vegetation, as you can see from our photos that we included in our application. I think they're on your pages 240, 241 and 242, and they show the current view of our property. It's our intention that we keep this view, the gum tree and the screening landscape, the landscaping to screen the carport. We feel we would be maintaining the streetscape by ensuring the carport is not visible upon approach to our property and keeping our native garden that we have established. We definitely don't want a concrete jungle at the front of our place. With this in mind, the carport would be in keeping with the rest of our property, colour matching to the existing colour-bond guttering and garage door. We have elected to match the roofline of the carport to our house. We position the carport under the bedroom windows so not to obscure our vision from within the house. Additionally, it does not obscure vision from any of our neighbours, and they have no objection to our application. This was indicated both by their verbal consent to us as well as the fact that no submissions were received by council. In summary, our application is to provide undercover parking for our vehicles. We feel our application was the best option, working within the limitations of our property, in that there is no rear lane access and the dwelling built in 1976 has garaging for only one vehicle when we in fact have three. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, takes care of the public forum. Could council staff all be upstanding, please, for the expressions of sympathy? We'd like to have a moment's silence to express our sympathy on the passing of the following: Endina Anderson, Maxwell Henry, Joan Rawlin, Bruce Chown, Beverly Wilson, Helen Thackeray, John Harris, Matthew Dwyer, Ronald Eldridge, Noel Boulding, Ronald Prosser, June Rain, Murray McGrath, Bede Smithers, Coal Alaboth, Faye Ashley, Ellen Cahill, Margaret Morris, Mahmood Ali, Ivor Wills, and Robin Balsaji. Thank you all. Councillors, that takes us to the confirmation of the minutes of our council ordinary meeting on the 24th of March. And the recommendations there. Moved Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Armstrong, thank you. There's no changes to those. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me to disclosures of interest. Do we have any disclosures of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? I'll take that as a no. Mayoral minute, nil. Takes us to the Mayor's diary report for March-April. It's there, councillors, in front of you. Ask that someone that be received and note that report. To Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Walker, thank you. Happy to talk at any time on any of those meetings with anyone. I'll put that. All those councillors in favour? Aye. Thank you. Next item is the councillors' reports and meetings attended. I have a report there from Councillor Rolls and Councillor Horton. Would you like to mention or speak to any of those before I start? Councillor Horton, thank you. So Councillor Horton's are there. Councillor Rolls?
I'd just like to say Anzac Day. It was lovely to see it up again and running. And Kurrawaka, RSL, and all the RSLs that have been commended for the day. And my patch was Kurrawaka and also Monteagle in their brand new hall. So congratulations to all.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 18th of March, meeting with the Young Medical Centre representatives. 10th of April, the Young Street Party event. 25th of April was the Hilltops ARTC meeting. The 3rd of the 4th April was the Maymaru Public Schools Centenary celebrations, and I'd like to congratulate everyone that was involved with that event. It was an absolutely fantastic event that went off without a hitch. Certainly the number of people, former students at the school and former residents of the area that returned to Maymaru and to Young for the weekend was absolutely fantastic. On the 20th was the Young Business Sector meeting and discussions. The 21st was the council workshop and LEP briefing. 25th was the Anzac Day celebrations at Young. 26th were the Anzac Day commemorations. I stand corrected. 25th was the Anzac Day commemorations, and the 26th were the Anzac Day commemorations at Hennessy Catholic College. I'd also like to pass on my thanks to the Young Cadet Unit and to all of those people involved with the organisation of the Anzac Day celebration commemorations.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stadmiller. Thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wasn't at the last meeting, but I also was at the doctors' meeting on the 18th of March, which probably would have fell into the last meeting. Also, the council briefing last Wednesday, the 21st of April, Anzac Day in Maringo on the 25th, and I'm here.
Thank you. Welcome, and Councillor Manchester.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
Just as mandated, I don't think.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, I have been asked to mention that Councillor Flannery will also be joining us, but he's running late. So apologies for not mentioning that first, but he's on his way. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 17th of April, the SES and Allied Services Open Day in Harden. The 24th, the official opening of the new tennis courts in BOOROWA, which are magnificent, I have to say. I was very impressed with them. The 25th, the Anzac Day marches in Harden and Jugeong, and I'd like to thank all the outdoor staff involved because both parks just looked incredible. They were really beautiful. And then tonight, the ordinary council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Walker.
Meetings is minuted.
Thank you. I also will just touch on Anzac Day because I was asked to by visiting officials who and Major Mitchell, and commented and wanted to pass their thanks on to all the outdoor staff also that were in Young, and in the lead up to all the services. Everyone had nothing but the highest of compliments for the staff of Hilltops Council, so I said we'd pass that on to everyone involved, so well done to all. Could I have a mover for those reports to be accepted? Moved to commend Councillor Manchester. Thank you. Seconded Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Thank you. Takes me to Community Recognition Scheme. Do we have Councillor Rolls?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just demolishing the bottle there. Mr Mayor, I'd just like community recognition for Dr Bill Maher, who, after serving this community for more than 35 years, has retired and is leaving the district. It's a loss both for his family going and because over that time the family as a whole has been involved in many community activities, and Bill has as well. And also Bill's skill, especially in the obstetrics, but his care and compassion for everybody of all ages will be a great loss to our community. And so I think it's right that we acknowledge his contribution and wish him well for his retirement.
Thank you, Councillor Rolls. I didn't really want to pull you up halfway through it, but that was actually done at last month's meeting.
Oh, pardon me.
The letter has been done, and I have that letter in my hand, but yeah.
Well, so. I must have not been. But can I say, just as I was asked to be the community rep at his farewell, and that too was an honour that I was asked to do that.
Very good, thank you.
My apologies for not reading my minutes properly.
That's okay. I just wasn't 100% sure, and I thought, well, just there we go. But it's been confirmed and the letter's been done. That's exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item we move on to is... Sorry, Councillor O'Connor, sorry.
I'd like to recognise Sharon and Paul Corcoran and the BOOROWA Tennis Committee. They've kept tennis thriving in BOOROWA and with very scarce facilities. And they've had a lot of commitment and innovative plan to keep their tournaments going. It was really impressive to see. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deirdre, you've got that for Councillor Connor. Yep. Thank you. Okay. The next item is the General Manager's report, and as is our normal practice...
Sorry, did you want to pass that community recognition?
Can I have a mover and a seconder for the community recognitions for the please? Moved Councillor Stadmiller, seconded Councillor Manchester. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the financial figures, but because we've had a speaker in public forum and normal practice is to bring that item forward, so those people who speak in public forum don't have to be here for the rest of our dragged out meeting. We will now move to that item, which is on page 216, item 2163.
Do you have a mover and second?
Yeah, do I move on? Could I have a mover and a seconder to do that? Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Councillor Manchester, thank you. All those in favour? Okay. Item 2163 is the DA 2021/0034 double carport at 147 Edward Street, Young. The report is there, councillors, and the recommendation from staff is that Council refused a development application, etc., for the erection of a double carport on Lot 13, DP 26511 at 147 Edward Street for the following reasons. And those reasons are listed there for you, councillors, and I'm sure you've taken them on board. So do I have a mover and seconder for the move? Councillor Horton. Seconded, Councillor Wallace. Thank you. Councillor Horton, would you like to speak to the matter?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm guided by the staff here, qualified people, and we have rules and regulations for good reasons, so that the place doesn't become hickley-pickley and all over the place. If you break the rule for one person, then you've got to do it for another. So I support the directors and the staff that have made those decisions and believe that we must have conformity.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Are there any speakers against? Councillor Stadmiller.
Mr. Mayor, we often use clause 4.6 of the Act to make amendments to proposals such as this. I think this is out of line and just a simple carport, and I'll be voting against this. I don't think we should be refusing development. It's a simple carport, and we should be allowing the applicant to continue with installing a carport. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Would the seconder like to speak to the item? Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, look, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The Director of Planning knows I have some issue at times with what is aesthetically pleasing and what isn't, and how that is defined and how that's categorised. I think in this situation I accord with Councillor Horton. People remind me constantly of developments which don't fit, and I'm not saying that this would be the worst of them, but it probably doesn't fit, and for that reason I'd be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Do I have any other speakers against? Take that as a no. Okay, councillors, I'll put the recommendation in relation to the item 2163. All those in favour? Aye. Against? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, councillors. Deirdre, I'm sorry, Deirdre, you get the votes here? Sorry. Thank you, councillors. We go back to my beginning with the General Manager's report, which is the presentation of the audited financial statements for the year end at 30 June 2020, and I'll let the General Manager explain, but the auditors, we can't do the technology here for them to be present there, as much as I think I mentioned it once before. From my point of view, I believe they should be in the room with us. I think we deserve to be treated with a level that the size of our organisation, and I think it shows poorly. But as it turns out, the best we're going to do is via the phone, I would say, by the sound of that. So, councillors, I'll hand over to the General Manager now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. It is usual practice when the accounts for any financial year are presented for the auditor to be invited to present its finding and speak to the accounts, and we are now just trying to dial through to the New South Wales Audit Office, who had said that they were on standby. So I do apologise for the delay.
Just the little things.
Yes. Yes, we were assured that they were ready and standing by. So I do apologise for this, but they are the people who will be speaking to the report and their findings. I'm not sure what to do.
Would you like me to move on to the agenda? And if they dial in, they can wait till we move to the agenda item.
I think we do.
Yep.
Mr Mayor, I do apologise.
It's okay. Item 2158 is in regard to the submission remote attendance at council and committee meetings, councillors, and I was asked for a report and a submission to be put together for that, and that's there, and the recommendation is there to receive and note the report and to forward that submission off. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that item? Move, Councillor O'Connor. Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. Look, any commentary or anything before I put that, councillors? No. Okay, all those in favour?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors, and thank you to staff for putting that together. And there's a lot of positives to come out of it. Could be still done via the technology that we've adapted now, and would open up the field for potential councillors who otherwise might not be able to attend meetings if they're allowed to do that. So, which is good. Item 2159 is the cash and investment report, and received the statement of cash and investments as of March 2021. Do I have a mover? Moved, Councillor Manchester. Seconded, Councillor Armstrong. Second that. Thank you. Any questions in regard to that? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 2160, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors note. The report's there, councillors, and the recommendation we receive and note the report. Moved, Councillor Manchester. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Walker. Thank you. Question, Councillor Morton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First, I just want to congratulate the staff on getting beginning to get the outstanding rates under control. I notice we've got debt collectors, and that's a good thing. Also, a little bit more information about the split up after 5 years, how long it is. But I notice on page 179, under sundry debts, local government grants in general, it doesn't add up to 100%. If you add it up, it'll come to 99%. Page 179, sundry debts.
Might have been using round figures, Councillor. I don't know.
Through you, Mr Mayor, well picked up. There is a rounding. There would be a rounding error there if it's only 1%.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Councillor Armstrong got a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just through you to the General Manager. Mr General Manager, just in regard to these long outstanding rate accounts and water accounts, I'm just wondering when councillors, when staff bring to council a report that relates to the sale of land for unpaid rates, because there would appear to be some significant number of properties based upon the dollar values outstanding in the 5 years and greater. Council needs to accept it that it's going to have some errant ratepayers, but certainly 5 years is far too far.
Chief Financial Officer.
Yep. Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm actually meeting with, as part of the Debt Collection Agency, one of their representatives who have previously worked through sale of land on Monday. We're going to work through the process to determine what we currently need to do, what is outstanding enough that we can bring that report back to you. So that is commencing as we speak.
So through you, Mr Mayor, we will bring as part of this ordinary usual report, we'll bring back some information in regards to the process what we can do in that regard.
Can that be a special report, please? A separate report,
a separate
not part
report?
of this report?
Certainly, yep.
Given that it deals specifically with parts of the Act that are very heavy in terms of their application and the imposts upon the community.
Through Mr Mayor, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Any other questions in regard to that report? Councillor Stadmiller.
Mr Mayor, at the former Hardenshire Council, the time frame for sale of land for unpaid rates was 5 years. So do we have any sort of policy at the moment, or is that what is being worked on and what will be brought back?
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's a legal timeline, the 5 years, and it applies across all of the former councils.
In regard to policies, if there's no existing policy being created by Hilltops Council, I believe it all reverts back to whatever the former policy was of the Young Shire Council. Any other questions in regard to that matter?
I believe the auditor may be ready, Mr Mayor.
Yep, I'll finish this matter first. No more questions there. I'll put that report. All those in favour?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. I believe our auditors are on the line. Is that correct?
That is correct. Have we got you there, Dominica?
Yes, you do.
Rightio, would you present your report for us, please?
Yes, sure thing. Thank you, and sorry for missing you a few minutes ago. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dominica Bryan, and I'm the Audit Office of New South Wales Director, responsible for the financial statement audit of the Council. I'd like to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. The audit for the financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2020 was my second year auditing the Council, and I'm pleased to report to you that we've issued a clean audit opinion on your Council's financial statements. This means that we've concluded the financial statements contain no material misstatements and present fairly. This year we issued our audit opinion on the 31st of March this year. This was in line with the extended due date that was agreed between the Council and the Office of Local Government. The Council is working towards improving the timeliness of the financial statement preparation and audit processes. We note that the financial statement audit was completed several weeks earlier than last year, with fewer issues and fewer delays. However, some delays have continued to be experienced throughout the audit. As an office, we deliver 20% of our Council's in-house, and we work with audit firms as audit service providers to deliver 80% of our Council audit. Currently, we deliver your audit together with Deloitte as our audit service provider. I'd like to share with you some of the risks which we identified and included in our audit response. We tailor our audit each year with consideration to the transactions that are expected to occur at your Council, and also issues and themes emerging across the local government sector. So this year for Council, we had some ongoing areas of focus, 2 areas of focus that were specific to all councils, to the sector in 2020, and 2 areas which were unique to 2020 for many entities. So the first specific area of focus for the Council was the valuation of infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. Local councils manage significant infrastructure assets and conduct revaluations on a regular basis. The net carrying amount of your Council's infrastructure, property, plant and equipment, as you can see in the financial statements, was $639.2 million. The Council comprehensively revalued its bulk earthworks, its roads, bridges and other assets this year, and the revaluation increased the value of Council's assets by $52 million. On our end, we performed work to ensure that the asset valuations were appropriate, that the asset registers were complete, and that the values were accurately reflected in the financial statement. Our second area of focus was Council's extensive capital works program. The program resulted in over $31 million in asset additions during the 2019-20 year, and this was spread across a number of asset classes, including non-specialised buildings, plant and equipment, roads, the water supply network assets and swimming pools. The third area of focus for the Council was the rehabilitation provision. So the Council continues to be responsible for the rehabilitation of both closed and operating landfill sites, and the rehabilitation obligations at 30 June 2020 were estimated to be $8.3 million. We gained an understanding of Council's procedures around these provisions, and we performed audit work around the assumptions, judgments and estimates the Council had used in calculating this provision. The two areas which were specific to all councils in 2020, an area of focus, if you like, for councils for our office, were credit cards and information technology general control. Specific to 2020 and unique to 2020, there were two further areas. Firstly, the implementation of the new accounting standards. The Council's financial statements are prepared in accordance with the Australian Accounting Standards and the Financial Reporting Code issued by the Office of Local Government. This year, 3 new accounting standards were implemented by all entities complying with the Australian Accounting Standards. They related to revenue and leases. The impact of the new standards relating to revenue resulted mostly in reclassifications between classes of assets and liabilities on the balance sheet, and it had a net impact of approximately $13.8 million. The new standard relating to leases resulted in the Council recognising a right of use asset for some of its leases for the first time. The total impact of this was $640,000 and lease liabilities for an equal amount at the 1st of July 2019. The second area of focus or key issue unique to 2020 was the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the Council. While the initial effects of the pandemic were felt mostly by the travel industry and education providers, we feel the impact is now considerably wider and is creating quite significant uncertainty. This uncertainty is creating risks in the financial statements that the Council may not have encountered before. While the impact was not material on the Council, we have reviewed Council's assessments and we did not note any material issues. As you may be aware, our work is not limited to auditing the financial statements of the Council. We also prepare a report to Parliament on the financial statements of councils overall and perform performance audits. We will highlight our findings and insights and areas of improvement from our 2019-20 financial statement audits in our report to Parliament, which is scheduled to table shortly. Our office has also tabled performance audits on the local government sector this year. Initially, our performance audits were focusing on the sector as a whole. However, more recently, the performance audits tabled were targeting specific councils. The Auditor General has also now released her annual work plan for 2020-21. The purpose of the work plan is to explain how we decide what to focus on and what we intend to cover in the next year. This work plan covers not only local government but all sectors. We'll continue to consult with councils and others on the choice of performance audit topics, and we intend to publish a rolling forward program. I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you this evening, and I look forward to working with Council again.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Are there any questions from the councillors to the auditor? Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, thank you, Dominica. The Local Government Act Section 8B requires councils to spend their money responsibly and sustainably. In actual fact, the Act states council spending should be responsible and sustainable, aligning general revenues and expenses. Given council's operating loss before capital, contribution for capital, of $10 million, last year's $7 million, and the considerable operating losses prior to those years, is it the auditor's opinion that council is compliant with Section 8B of the Act?
In terms of our financial statement audit, our opinion is it's quite specific in terms of compliance with the reporting requirements for the council. So we don't really go into those aspects as part of our audit opinion. If I could direct you to our performance audit plan, I know there's some information on there around proposed performance audits in later years. If I could suggest having a look if there's something there, and if you feel that perhaps there's an opportunity for a compliance review, that we'd be really welcoming of your suggestions in that forum.
I guess my concern is that the Act is very clear: spending should be responsible and sustainable. I look at the performance ratios for Hilltops Council, and I see ratios that I believe are unsustainable and results that are pointing towards a reduced level of service to the community. Would the Audit Office offer an opinion in regards to those performance benchmarks and Section 8B?
Not as part of our financial statement audit. Our extent of the work on the benchmarks that are included in the financial statement is around the accuracy of their calculations. So we check that they've been prepared using the information from the financial statements, which we've confirmed is materially correct. And we also check that they have been correctly calculated and reported consistently. The work which we conduct on the financial statements also includes confirming that the going concern basis is an appropriate basis of preparation for the financial statements, but that's really limited to Council's ability to pay its bills as and when they fall due for the coming 12 months.
Thank you.
I'll take that as a yes, Councillor Armstrong. Anyone else would like to ask a question? Well, we've got Dominica on the line. No, it would appear not. So thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to catching up in regard to 2021.
Thank you, Dominica.
Thank you. And thank you again to the team from Council. Really appreciate working with you guys this year, and looking forward to working with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Did I have a mover and seconder? No. Councillors? Councillors? Councillor Armstrong? Could I have a mover and a second for the recommendation, please, on that report? Right. Councillor Wallace, thank you. And seconded Councillor Manchester. Any questions in regard to it?
Look, I'd just like to make a comment, if I may, and publicly congratulate the staff in that sector for getting us in the situation that we are in, given that even though we're probably on a continual journey to get things as we'd theoretically like to, but I think we're now in a stable position where we've got a foundation to build on, and I'd like to congratulate the relevant staff for that situation.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. I'm sure staff appreciate it. Councillor Wallace?
Just a question. Are we required to have this presentation annually, or is it?
Through you, Mr Mayor, under the Local Government Act, Council can request the auditor to present, and they are required to present if so invited. But if Council does not request, they are not obligated to attend or present. And as I understand, they were so requested.
Councillor Manchester.
Did we actually get a written report from the auditors?
That forms part of the annual financial statements. You'll see the report, the auditor's report that attaches to it.
It's all there. Councillor Stadmiller, question before.
Just a question for the General Manager, Mr Mayor. We appear to have had some issues in the past with our audited financials being completed on time. Does the General Manager envisage those problems continuing, or will we be closer to being on track at the next time?
through you, Mr Mayor, what I will not commit to a date. Certainly is our intention to meet the timelines. The problems that we had for the 18-19 year plagued us for the 19-20 year. As councillors are aware, we have a Technology 1 remediation program that is ongoing. So how far we move into that will assist us to meet them. Certainly our intent and a request from the Audit Risk Improvement Committee, quite firmly the Chair put to the New South Wales Audit Office and their subcontractor Deloitte's to have an audit plan presented to it by its next meeting. I think actually maybe a little bit earlier. Certainly we will be working towards that. What I will say is for the 18-19 year, we presented those accounts in May. We have now presented them in March, albeit at the end of March. It is improving. It is not where we want to be, but that is part of the journey. Thank you.
Thank you for that. On that note, I'll put the recommendation. Councillor Armstrong, do you have another question before I do?
I did have a number of questions that were asked at the workshop. I've received an email today from the CFO, thank you very much, advising that the spreadsheets that are used to calculate the employees' leave entitlements is the basis of the reserve amount. I still haven't got an answer as to where the other $2.1 million went to, because there was 3.2 in the reserve. Now there's just over $1 million, so there's $2 million. I accept that the spreadsheet may calculate 1.1 or 1.2 as being the ideal figure. To me, that seems inadequate, but given the provisions in Schedule 14, or Note 14 rather.
Sorry, just on that point through you, Mr Mayor, when it moves from an internal restriction, it just goes into unrestricted cash.
Well, then what I want is someone to tell me it's been spent somewhere else.
The final figure in these statements, the cash balance at the end of the year, when read in conjunction with the profit and loss, will show where the money had been sent in conjunction with reading the cash flow.
I've looked at the cash there too.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see where the transfer is. $2.1 million has occurred to a particular part of council's operations.
It would have just gone to the general unrestricted funds, councillor. Once it's been moved out of the unrestricted.
Given the provisions, the calculations for provisions for leave in there, the current figure seems to be inadequate.
As indicated in the CFO's advice today, we are now in line with minimum industry practices, so that's what we've relied upon.
Minimum industry practices.
That's correct.
Thank you for that. Councillor Armstrong, do you have any other questions in regard to the report?
Lots of questions in regards to... Mr Mayor, I have lots of questions in regards to the statements, but I'll provide those to the General Manager and they can be answered in due course.
Thank you, Councillor. Scrutiny is a great thing. Any other comments in regard to that? I'll put the report. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We did 2158, the remote attendance. Before we went back, we did the cash and investment report. We did the outstanding rates and charges. We're up to 2161 on page 180 of the paper copy. The development application stats for March 2021, and the recommendation is to receive and note, councillors.
I'll move it. I just need a couple of questions, please.
Thank you. Was that seconded, Councillor Manchester? Thank you. Councillor Horton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just little things. I noticed that on page 186 we've got Rye Park Wind Farm. Have they put a DA in or not? That's all it says, nothing else. Page 180. Oh no, 186, I beg your pardon.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's a carryover from the table from the previous page. It relates to DA 2020-250.
Good on you.
Yes. So there are actually 3 DAs in relation to that wind farm for the quarrying of material.
I didn't look properly. And the second question just a little one on page 190, 0033, Medical Centre Harden. And it was approved on the 18th of the 3rd, 2019. Why is it still there?
I believe that would just be an administration error. Thank you for picking that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton.
Question, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Armstrong.
I noticed that from DA 2021-0065, there's no applicants in any of the further. Is there? Do we have applicants for those, or is that?
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor. The report's now been generated from our new system. We've gone fully integrating through the Tech One system now, and so our report is being generated from that particular system rather than manually done from the administrator. Through that system, it won't provide us with the applicant information. The applicant can be anyone. It doesn't necessarily mean the actual landowner. So the importance of it, and if we are meeting legislation and putting this report up straight up to the website, we don't require to put the applicant's name, only the address of the development.
Okay. Thank you for that. Any other questions in regard to this report, councillors? Councillor Horton.
Mr Mayor, to the Chief, to Director Clare there, I still, this Rye Park one, I just can't find anything on the page before.
It's the bottom, it's the last table.
What application number is it?
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's 2020-250 on page 185, right down the bottom.
Page 185.
It
says Australian Resource Development Group.
Yeah, and then under the works, it will have quarry to extract and process up to 70,000 tonnes per annum to supply road base and drainage rock for the, and then you carry over the next page, Rye Park Wind Farm Project.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Just an unfortunate split of the page, councillor. Yeah, that's what that was. Okay, I'll put that report. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again, so be it. Thank you, councillors. Takes us to 2162, which is a DA. Sorry?
No, sorry, that's the next one. Sorry.
All good, we'll just continue on. Takes us to 2162, DA 2021-0025, the garage and carport at 8 Dairyman's Lane, Young. The report, sir, council, and the recommendation is that council grant consent to development application, as I quoted, for the erection of a garage with an attached carport at lot 2446, DP 754611, 8 Dairyman's Lane, Young, subject to the conditions generally set out in attachment 2.
Move the recommendation.
Moved and second, Councillor Horton and Councillor Walker. Any questions in speaking for that, councillors, or you're happy for that to be put? I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, thank you, councillors. Takes me to 2163, DA 2021-0034. We've done that one. Sorry, councillors. Move along. We have done that one. 21, thank you, Mr General Manager. 2164, DA 2021-0032, dwelling house. 1003 Henry Lawson's Way, Young. Councillors, once again, there's the report there, and the recommendation is that council grant consent to development application as stated, generally in accordance with the conditions of consent being attachment 1 to this report. Moved to Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Manchester. And happy to put that recommendation, councillors? All those in favour? Aye. So be it. Thank you. 2165 is DA 2021-0027 subdivision. 1 lot into 2 lots, 16 Goldview Close, Young. Councillors, once again, there's a lengthy report there, and the recommendation is that council grant consent to development application as stated, generally in accordance with the conditions of consent being attachment 1 to this report. Moved Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Rolls. Thank you. Councillors happy enough with the question?
Yeah, the question, if I may. On page 290, and I've just got a look it up. On the regulations, there was page 290, ASD 3.1.10, that talks about easement widths referring to sewerage and water are a minimum of 4 metres wide. And yet I noticed on these diagrams the easements are 3 metres wide. Can someone offer a comment on that?
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I will have to take that on notice for the reason why it would be 3 metres and not the 4 metres as proposed. It may be that we may pick that up in the conditions of consent, that it complies to the 4 metres.
Thank you for that.
Other question?
Okay. Councillor Walker.
I have a problem at any time putting easements through other people's property, and we've got both water and roads here, so because it's, to me, it's inviting issues further down the track. Not only that, when I notice, just by back of the envelope calculations, I'm working out that the area of easement taken off the 1.3 hectares leaves the area less than 1 hectare, which is right on minimum. So I'm not really in favour of this development.
I'll take that as speaking against the recommendation, Councillor. The mover and the second are happy for it to be put. I'll put the recommendation from Council. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Councillor Wallace and Councillor Walker. Thank you. Jump one. I didn't. 2166, the Disability Inclusive Action Plan. And Council, the reason it's there is stated, and the recommendation is there. Do I have a move? Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Seconded. Seconded. Councillor Manchester, thank you. I'll take any questions if there are before I put that recommendation. Councillor Stadmiller.
Mr Mayor, question for the General Manager. The resolution appears to have been made in October 2017, just 2 months after this council was elected. How far down the path of that resolution did we actually get, if any, before we start to remove that resolution and go in a different direction, if that can be ascertained?
The Director of Planning will answer that. I will put a caveat on this report. The report was, there was a question raised by Councillor Flannery to suggest that we have had these long outstanding motions, resolutions, dare I say, that for either through lack of resources and certainly through lack of budgeting, we've been unable to achieve. This is effectively to reset the clock so that we have a clean slate to address these. This is not saying that these resolutions were unimportant or ill-intended. It's that they have not been done, and for the foreseeable future, this is the way forward. But in direct to your question on the progress, I will now pass to the Acting Director Planning.
Through you, Mr Mayor, as part of this process, we will do a complete audit on the actual Disability Action Plan, Inclusive Action Plan, and see what has been implemented and what has not been implemented, taking into consideration that there are still projects on the side that we are completing that can still identify where we action some of the things identified in that particular plan, and at the formation of the new council, we'll create the new DEP plan as per the legislation under the Act.
Thank you for that explanation. And yeah, that's what was brought up at the last meeting. Okay. I have a mover and a seconder. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Horton and Councillor Stadman are against. Thank you. It's carried. Item 2167, update Harden Streetscape improvements, ARTC, Rail Park Museum and Car Park. Councillors, there's a report there and a recommendation, and I believe, and I'll let the General Manager speak if you like, this came to Council because of the very same reason of questions asked last week about it sitting there.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. This is in the same vein as we've been unable to, well, not only under my term, but certainly the years since it was...
Just before you go any further, can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor O'Connor, seconded Councillor Manchester. Sorry, Mr General Manager.
Not almost, Mayor. So this is in the same vein. We're resetting clock. We still are articulating what we believe can be achieved and the progress that can be made within this space. But certainly from what I've seen, it has not been directly resourced to achieve what was originally envisaged. So, thank you.
Thank you. So any further questions in light of that? Councillor Stadmiller?
Mr Mayor, a question for the General Manager. This resolution was made on the 23rd of April 2018. We've had a number of General Managers acting interim and actual during that time. What sort of level did we get to with our discussions with ARTC, if any, in the revitalisation process?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I believe that no progress had been made. Thank you. I'm not aware. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, in 2018, we did have several meetings with senior staff, possibly a general manager, I can't actually remember, but certainly with senior staff and ARTC. And both parties were keen to do something, but it comes down to time and money and allocation of resources, and it, you know, none were available.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Manchester may have something to add. Councillor.
Yeah, look, this has been going on for not just for 1 or 2 years, it's been going on for 10 years. Maybe a bit more, but say at least 10 years. Sorry.
Thank you,
yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, this has been going on for probably 10 years. And initially we had trouble getting an agreement with ARTC to utilise the land because of their possible liability. And that's basically where it's stayed, even though some of the people that came out and spoke to us, they were in favour of it. But actually when it came down to the crunch, getting the final tick from ARTC to utilise the land.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Manchester. Councillor Stadmiller.
Just another question for the General Manager, Mr Mayor. Point C of the recommendation states that acknowledge that council officers are engaging with the community of Harden-Murrumborough to revitalise the senior citizens precinct in Harden. I can't see how the senior citizens precinct in Harden has anything to do with the streetscape improvements or the ARTC rail park. Could I just have an explanation, please?
Yep, through you, Mr Mayor. I believe it's just a way of showing the community that although we're not actioning this particular resolution of council, we've got a strategy in place to look at a placemaking strategic plan for the whole of Harden-Murrumborough and see where that goes with the town centre. But also in the short term we can still carry out specific projects. I've had meetings with the Rotary Harden and they would be keen to do a community project on this particular precinct. So the resolution there is just to acknowledge that although this particular resolution is going, the council staff here still have a vision for the area and we're still keen to work with the community to deliver community projects.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Stadmiller.
Could I hope that's on? Question for the General Manager. Can I ask that councillors be engaged first before we start engaging with outside groups for council-owned assets?
Certainly, Councillor Stadmiller will take that. And I'll pass to the Director because I believe Rotary approached us.
Yes, that's right. The idea is then to, once we've had some general discussion and understanding of what the community group wants to do, is to bring it back to a councillor briefing, present that to a councillor briefing as well, and then also go out and engage with the community after having the briefing with the councillors.
Mr Mayor, just to clarify, so what the Director's saying is that pre-engagement's going on at the moment and then we will have a briefing as to how that engagement's gone before we then engage with the wider community, is that correct?
That's not the understanding I have. My understanding is our role is to engage with the community. We represent the community and a big part of that is engaging with the community. So I take that on board as being, not that they align with each other. The community seek to come and speak to council or senior council staff about some visions they have for their community. They also speak to yourself and myself as councillors about that vision, and when we bring it to a head at council meetings. But if we don't take on board the visions of the community, we may have a too narrow a focus. That's just my way of taking that. That's how it is. I think that's what was meant by staff. I hope that clarifies that a little bit.
It doesn't, but thank you.
Councillor Horton.
Just a question to the General Manager. By approving this recommendation, how will that expedite these things happening that have been on the back burner for a couple of years?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent of, well, not only this this report but the former report is essentially giving resources and timing and budget we've been unable to achieve, and certainly there has not been progress. To leave these ad infinitum on the report is not appropriate, because they have not been prioritised as part of the work schedule, because there are more pressing priorities. So in this way, this is not to say that this will not be brought back, that we will not re-engage in consultation with ARTC. However, that must be a prioritisation when balanced against the other priorities of council. So it will still be a decision for council to redirect us back to these if that is the will of the council.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, look, I've got some concerns with this matter and the previous one, and they're along the lines of what Councillor Horton just said. We seem to be crossing things off a list, but we're not actually doing anything. As a member of the Asset Committee, I probably should know when the asset management plans are going to be done, and the disability plans will be part of that, but I don't. And furthermore, when will the precinct placemaking strategic plans be done?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the first priority of council is the LEP. Then as we proceed through to the DCP and the Community Strategic Plan, that's where these precinct plans will hopefully be identified, then resourced and then delivered by the council staff. The way that the strategy is and the framework, having the higher-arching documents there, and then be able to then focus on the actual town centres and then identify the capital works for those delivery of those programs, is the normal process of strategic planning. The purpose of this particular report and this acknowledgement of C is that even though while we are doing these high-level strategic framing documents, we still want to work with the community and deliver small community projects where possible, so to keep the town centres going.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to follow up, that gives me the order. It doesn't give me the time frame. I was just wondering if there was one.
Time frame, I would say the LEP is. Once the LEP is completed, then we'll look at the DCP. DCPs take approximately 12 months. We also have to deliver the CSP, so we're guided by basically council's approval processing through those development of those plans.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I just will emphasise my understanding of many of these things that were envisaged. I don't believe they were appropriately, adequately resourced or resourced, so we're unable to achieve them. I've talked many times about the financial position. We need to now focus upon the process which we'll need to undertake, how we get back to a balanced profit and loss in the longer term. So certainly we can envisage of the timeline, but that timeline is a broader discussion about how we fill the gap. I'm certainly taking on board Councillor Armstrong's earlier comments about the financial position of council. That is something that cannot be ignored, and certainly something we will be working on in the coming months, right up to the election, and certainly within those first few months of the new council or constitution, whatever that may be. So it is a journey. So we cannot commit to any time frame without certainty about how we would fund our visions, because I don't believe that has been done before.
Thank you, General Manager, and the Acting Director of Planning for that. Okay, councillors, I had a move and a second to start that, so I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Horton and Councillor Studmiller. That's resolution is carried. Thank you. I've missed a page somewhere. 67, I'm after 68. There we go. Draft Hilltops Council Procurement Policy. Report there, councillors, and the recommendation is there.
So moved.
Moved Councillor Walker and seconded Councillor Horton.
Question?
Question, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. To the General Manager. Mr General Manager, just in regard to the practical application of this policy, I can see one huge stumbling block, and that is the definition of a local supplier. And I'd like that to be sharpened up a little bit. I don't believe the current definition, that is individual organisations or companies whose main business functions are based within the geographical Hilltops local government area, is going to be sufficient. That requires a staff member to make an assessment on what the main business functions of a supplier are. And I can see that being a fairly difficult thing to do, given that we have local businesses that are based, as far as I'm concerned, in Young, and certainly within the Hilltops area, that don't have any presence in either Boorowa or Harden, but have significant presences in other parts of the state. So I'm just a bit concerned that there may not be a reasonable application of that particular definition.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that's currently in the policy. If you're asking for that, that's the current policy. The intent of this policy is to bring it into line with the Local Government Act amendment, which allowed councillors to move the threshold from 150 to 250.
I had concerns when the previous policy was put to council. I'm voicing the same concerns now.
In relation to the definition of a local provider, it must always be subjective, because what is by definition a local provider? Is it someone that lives in Grenfell, for example, that works within Young? Is that a local? Do they stay within the purple? Woolworths would never be considered a local, yet it employs local people. It's vexed in that regard, and ultimately procurement policy as defined, yes, we need to be mindful about local procurement. However, ultimately we have limited resources, and we must consider value for money and price, which may in some ways restrict us to be able to do that. You're aware of this because of your experience. And
I'm certainly aware of it, and I agree with everything you've said there. My concern is that the practical application of this definition comes to individuals, organisations, and companies whose main business functions are based within the geographical Hilltops local government area. It requires an assessment by staff of what the main business functions of a supplier are.
I can only take your points on notice, Councillor, but as I said, this was not the intent of the change in the procurement policy at this time. It was the change in the level. I take it on board, and it's for councillors to debate.
As I said before, I expressed concerns at this aspect of it the last time it came to council.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, for your question. I'm going to move into second. Any other questions? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Wallace. Thank you, councillors. 2169 is the works report. There's a report there, councillors, and the recommendations there. We'll move into seconder to start with. Councillor Wallace and Councillor Horton, thank you. Any questions in regard to the works report, councillors? No, I'll take that as no. I'll put that report. All those in favour? Aye. Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 2170 is the action summary report. Moved to Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded seconder? Councillor Walker, thank you. Any questions in regard to that report, councillors, before I put it? That was a no, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again, it's unanimous, thank you, councillors. Takes me through to correspondence for information. Media releases and Office of Local Government circulars and recommendations there, councillors. Moved Councillor Manchester, thank you. Seconded Councillor Walker, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors, unanimous. Takes me to 2172, committee reports requiring action. So we've got one from the BOOROWA Irish WOOLFEST 355 committee. And so could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Rolls, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Horton, thank you.
We have to nominate the councillor.
Yeah, well, we've got nominate. Yep.
So we're moving to nominate someone, but who that person is.
Do we have any volunteers to be the nominee for the BOOROWA Irish WOOLFEST 355 committee? Council.
The only reason I'd be happy to go on it. I know quite a few people in the Borough area with interest in the WOOLFEST, but certainly if anybody else would like to go on, I'm happy to step back. So, Councillor O'Connor.
No, thank you.
You step forward.
In a tightly run contest.
We're being so polite here,
in a
aren't we,
tightly
Mr.
run
Mayor?
contest, Councillor Rolls appeared to have just got over the line. Oh, he's not here yet. I'll second.
So we have had a mover and a nomination.
Nomination.
Who's the seconder?
The move. I had a mover in Councillor Horton. You're happy to accept Councillor Rolls as the nominee?
As long as he steps forward, not back.
Right. Okay.
I'm like a kangaroo. Only move forward.
Aim for their tail. That's right. They can't go backwards. So, councillors, the recommendation would be that we nominate Councillor Rolls to sit on the BOOROWA Irish WOOLFEST S355 committee. All those in favour?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Congratulations. Well done.
Mayor. Mr. Mayor, while we're on Section 355...
No, that doesn't give you the right to take over. I'm sorry. It's probably...
I just... could it just clarify to me who actually is looking after the Section 355 committees?
Although this is not... it's a question without notice, but I will answer it, but that's fine. Certainly there's been various iterations over the time. However, it is the... permit of the governance area. You'll be aware that Mr. Trevor Drowley has retired. It was under his purview. At this point in time, Deirdre working with another lady whose name eludes me, but I probably shouldn't talk about staff name anyway. There is a person dedicated to that, and I can advise that I have received a table which indicates we have some 32 Section 355 committees. It indicates what our terms of reference are, when they were resolved, and certainly that will form part of a report coming forward on how best we can interact with the community, whether a Section 355 committee is the best vehicle. My experience with some of those committees
bring a point of order in a moment.
Has been they have a view that it may not be. So, for another day.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Another time. Thank you. Okay, we'll get back on track. 2173, Red Hill Reserve Committee is to receive and note the minutes of the Red Hill Reserve Committee meeting. Moved to Councillor Armstrong. Second to Councillor Walker. Questions? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
And thank you, councillors. Takes me over to 2174. Correct? Am I? Yep. Committee reports requiring no action. Councillors have a move and a second for the recommendation. Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Councillor Horton, thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, unanimous. Thank you, councillors. I think I've got that right. Takes me over to questions with notice, which was nil. Notice of motion, and we have a notice of motion put forward by Councillor Wallace, so I'll now hand over to Councillor Wallace to put his motion forward, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I asked the General Manager to include some information that was publicly available to give his councillors some background on this matter. But I wish to move the motion published in order to give some background to Council. I will iterate the proposed changes to the management of the travelling stock routes and reserves, the TSRs. The Riverina Local Land Services, the LLS, it proposes to lease or licence, it's unclear, the eastern area of its TSRs by dividing it into 7 sub-regions and allowing a single entity to manage, i.e. graze each region for a period of 4 years. The LLS had previously managed the TSRs using a number of different permits. The problem they now face, and especially with a good season, is that they are unable to raise sufficient revenue to manage the TSRs. In essence, this is a money grab by the LLS. The board approached the state government for funding, but none was provided. It was obviously not deemed of sufficient merit or importance to warrant funding. So who is funding the LLS and its management of TSRs in this new model? The answer is every ratepayer and landholder in the Hilltops Council. My discussions with the relevant LLS officer indicate that they will prefer there be one mob of cattle in each sub-region so that they can implement what they call crash grazing, which is the current perceived protocol in these situations. Given the areas of each region, ranging from 3,682 to 18,870 hectares, one can assume a mob of at least 1,000 head of cattle, if not much greater. The impact this will have on infrastructure is immense. In wet times, Council's gravel road network will be decimated. Road surfaces and drains will be destroyed to be paid for by the Hilltops ratepayer. It may well be that the lessee or the licensee will not even be a local ratepayer. All those who have land adjoining the TSRs are responsible for maintenance of fencing. With such large stock numbers, the damage to fences is inevitable. Rural ratepayers are in effect paying the council rates, the LLS rates and maintenance costs for the benefit of an outside entrepreneur to run cattle. Beyond these obvious direct costs, the biosecurity risk is immense. One only need, for example, to look at the proliferation of a weed such as St John's wort along roadsides and in TSRs, which has been spread by travelling stock. From an animal health perspective, when a problem takes hold of the mob, it is often too late, by which time all the neighbouring properties have been subjected to the widespread disease that may have taken hold. One need only consider the current global pandemic and potential parallel in the livestock industries, such as foot and mouth, to see how grave the situation could be. Surely, in this day and age, it is better to be proactive and stop potential spread. It is the remit of the LLS to manage biosecurity. This would seem to fly in the face of that obligation. Whilst considering being proactive, one must note that TSRs are largely anachronistic parcels of land created for when there was no land transport. However, they can provide useful grazing for neighbouring landholders in times of drought or fire. If this proposal were to proceed, that option is lost. Local landholders of the Hilltops would not be able to access this land at times of great need, as they will be leased or licensed to some third party. The Riverina LLS claims to have consulted our council. I've heard nothing about this until I spoke to the General Manager. But they have failed to consult the landholders who pay their salaries. It is arrogance of the highest order. One need only consider that the road corridor constitutes a significant proportion of the proposed management regions to see that this is being foisted on council and its ratepayers for the benefit of the LLS. In its information sheet, the LLS states that the supposed benefits of the proposal. All of these are entirely nebulous, except for the guaranteed annual income. This is a money grab of the highest order. The other perceived benefits include weed management and fire reduction, which one mob of cattle over such a large area will never achieve. By making this proposal, the LLS fails to realise the management of livestock in a variable climate. As a farmer, we have times of too much feed and others where there is not enough. On a farm, this can be managed, but on TSRs, there are no grain silos or hay sheds. All available feed will be taken by the LLS-created opportunists at the expense of local farmers. This approach could have been avoided by consulting the farmers who pay the rates, but obviously we are not deemed worthy. I ask fellow councillors to support this motion for the benefit of our ratepayers who do not deserve to be ripped off in this manner.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace, and while I'm aware that this motion doesn't need a seconder, I would quite happy to be the seconder of this motion, and I won't speak any more on it. I believe Councillor Wallace has covered it off to the fine point and said it as it is, so I'm quite happy for that, to have my name attached to that. And unless someone wants to speak against that recommendation, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Before we put the recommendation.
You can ask a question, Councillor O'Connor, yep.
Has this already been done? Is it a fait accompli?
It's not due to start until the 1st of July. The board has made its decision. And the feedback I get from the officer at the LLS is that other councils who were consulted agreed with it all quite enthusiastically. And I said, the councils, but I'm on the council, I haven't heard anything else. Oh no, the council staff. I said, but that's not the council. And he didn't quite understand that distinction.
Just, and to clarify, it was in my diary earlier, I had dinner, was invited to a dinner with the Riverina LES and representatives last week, the General Manager and myself. And while I was explaining to me it was just a meet and greet and say good day, and nothing politically was really touched on, I did indicate to some people then that I had a fairly strong opinion that our council wouldn't be in agreement with what their proposal was, and they said, well, it's out there, that's why it's out there for comment. But as Councillor Wallace pointed out, probably a bit of consultation that we have to do all the time would have been handy with the participants who are the farmers. So how far and how much they listen, if enough councils do this, then they will have to listen. So yeah.
So I think it's on the map, but they're all the eastern councils of the board. I mean, it goes quite a fair way west, but not out to Hay or anything.
No. Okay, sorry, Councillor Horton.
Just quickly, everything Councillor Wallace has said makes 100% sense, and I just can't understand how this could have been achieved. There's something going on behind the scenes there. It's ridiculous, and I support what you say 100%.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'll put the recommendation.
Just before you put that recommendation,
sorry, Councillor Manchester.
Is that strong enough, the recommendation and its wording?
Through you, Mr Mayor, this was the wording that was provided by Councillor Wallace.
Yeah. I'm just not sure what else you put there, but whether it's strong enough. But,
I mean, if council staff would like what I've said to help write the letter, I'm happy to provide it.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think it should be just a lot stronger. That's
Thank
all.
you. On that note, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Again, thank you, councillors. And I was pretty sure that support would be there. That takes me to confidential matters. Could I have someone move that we go into closed move? Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor O'Connor. 5:54. Thank you. So, all those in favour? Again. Councillors, we'll just wait till we... Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I got you now. Councillor, yeah, sorry, a bit slow on the update there.
Through you, Mr Mayor, as we've now come out of confidential, for Report 2177, Award of Contract RFT 550 of 2021, Supply and Delivery of Ready Mix Concrete. It was resolved that Council receive and note the report on RFT 550 of 2021, Supply and Delivery of Ready Mix Concrete. B. Award Contract number 550 of 2021, Supply and Delivery of Ready Mix Concrete to the successful tenderer as resolved. Just reminding those people that are watching, the successful tenderer will be disclosed in the minutes. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with awarding of this contract. Under Report 2177, Award of Contract RFT 551 of 2021, Provision of Traffic Control Services. It was resolved that Council A receive and note the report on RFT 551 of 2020, Provision of Traffic Control Services. B, award panel contract number 551 of 2021, Provision of Traffic Control Services to those successful panel applicants, tenderers. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the awarding of this contract. Finally, Report 2179, award of contract 560 of 2020, construction of 4 concrete reinforced bridges within the Hilltops LGA. It was resolved that Council receive and note the report on RFT 560 of 2020, in brackets, construction of 4 concrete reinforced bridges within the Hilltops LGA. It will be noted that Councillor Flannery has joined the meeting at 6:06. B, award contract number 560 of 2020, in brackets, construction of 4 concrete reinforced bridges within the Hilltops LGA to the successful tenderer. C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with awarding of this contract and expend funds as required within approved budgets. And D, receive a report as an update to the funding status once the outcome of the Building Better Regions Fund application is known. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, General Manager. And on that note, at 6:07, I'll declare the meeting closed. Councillor Flannery. Thank you, staff. Thank you, councillors.